So this is
Mm.
the key piece I wanted to share. India, I mean, in India, when you talk about open banking, that it is gets confused with a lot of activities. Sometimes with the neobank, sometimes with something else. So we thought, let us as a team attempt to bring it in a very simplified way. So let's put it how the structure is, and it is mix of both open banking and neobanking, both of them together. So if you look at the ground level, and this is just a representative, if your company is not there, doesn't mean that we are against them. I think we've just wanted to ensure that we have a good structure in a page we can read. If we put everybody in the same page, it's very difficult to follow. So this is more like a representative, not holistic. So there are at the bottom, if you look at, largely we have a lot of entities that, let's say a Bank of Baroda or a federal bank or a ICICI or DBS, a lot of entities exist on the bottom who are basically providing these APIs for partnership with the ecosystem, right? So that's a prime claim they have. They want to partner with the ecosystem, and therefore they have provided their APIs. So one of the best I would say is, let's say, a Northern Arc or a DMI on the NBFC side. They have ensured that all their APIs on the, even not just payment side, banks have to look at payments, but they have a complete lending suite being available for third parties to come on board. So they are ensuring that not just the normal payment service or maybe just account opening, end-to-end servicing is also provided to third parties. So for example, let's say for example, when we talk about an entity like a DMI or Northern Arc, they work with other fintechs. So other fintechs actually originate their loans, help them in the whole journey, including some level of underwriting and as well in that thorough integration. And on top of that, they help is in disbursement, they help in the entire life journey as well as collection. So everything is done by the third party, but very, very well integrated with the backend system. So the whole package has been created by the entities here, which is the banking APIs. The second layer on top of that is the API gateway players. We have a lot of API gateway players already in the country, like a TIPCO or a AWS or a MuleSoft. You would need that platform as a layer on top of your banking framework so that you can partner with third parties. So you need somebody to gate, somebody to control the ecosystem, somebody to ensure that nobody is misusing the securities and all the processes are taken care of. So you have a API gateway. You have core banking, obviously, underlying of all the services of bank are largely the core banking platform like Edgework or FIS or a TCS or Oracle, and maybe many more, right? So again, I personally have had the sort of, in my life, I've worked with three of them, and I love that journey as well. So coming back as such, so we have these set of core platforms out there. Then we have API integrators. So these are the players who will actually do coding for you. Finally, somebody has to do coding for you, and these are the players who help in coding as well to the customer. So there are, Katina is an entity, for example. Katina as an entity helps you in integrating or coding out there, which is critical. Somebody has a core banking, has a lot of APIs. Somebody has created a layer, but somebody has to ensure that those codes are get done. So there are some entities which are critical here, and some of you are, they are small but very niche and do a good job of it. That comes these API stack players like a Setu or a Eco or a Zeta. Now, what they've done, they've already pre-integrated themselves with a lot of banks already, a lot of APIs already. So therefore, when you are starting your own fintech, instead of going back to banks directly, you can actually partner with them and simplify some of your journeys. For example, collection journey. Now you may want to work directly with a bank, or you go to a Zeta or a cash free and integrate your platform with them and then start using the services. So that's a overlay there. And of course, we are sitting somewhere trying to bring it together. Then there are entities like NBFC account aggregators. Now, what NBFC account aggregators are? They are entities which aggregate the customer data from across platforms. So, and RBI came with regulations almost 3.5 years back, which is they came back with the entity called NBFC AA. Don't get confused with normal NBFCs. This is a new category, which basically is trying to help. Uh, just one request to anyone, Shashank or someone, can you admit all the others guys who are trying to enter, because I'm not able to help.
But actually, it is saying that
Yeah,
100
please take
participants.
it off. Please take it offline. There are a lot of guys here, so maybe chat offline. Shashank, can you just take it separately?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we now talk, let's say an activity level, NBFC account aggregator. They're basically aggregating the whole data into one structure, just one structure. That's what they do, and all data with banks or mutual funds or insurance is brought into one structure. And therefore, from an account information perspective, if you partner with them, your problems are largely solved. You have to ensure that you work with so much of entities to do that. So that's the NBFC AA. Then we come to a layer on top, which is retail and neobanks. Now, this is a completely new category which got generated a few years back. These entities like a neo or a yellow bank, they're trying to create a completely retail structure. So their focus is, let's say, mass market, or you can call retail. They want to originate savings account. They want to originate FDs. They want to originate small ticket loans. And that's what their business is. Underlying, they want to work with, let's say, ICICI or a DBS or DCB. That's a layer on the bottom, but that's a journey where retail neobanks are operating. Coming to SME neobanks, they are largely operating, helping the SMEs to come on board. I myself was an MSME, and I know that pain points I go through: accounting, invoicing, then reconciliation, and then payment of salary. That is the journey which these guys are trying to solve. So there are a lot of, right now, neobanks. Bank of Open was the first one. Anish did a fabulous job on that. And then after that, many more neobanks started coming in. Shashank, you can put the cursor on that so that people can see it. So this is the segment we are talking about. Razorpay has also done a good job. So they work on a slightly elevated level because they already have data of a lot of customers, and they're trying to give loans to that segment differently. They are also calling themselves a neobank. Then comes to a new segment, which is digital banks. Let's say a lot of banks, banks are also saying that we can also compete with fintechs. And therefore, Kotak 811 or a Digibank, they're also not just offering account opening and account creation simplified, but they're offering additional services which a bank typically is not giving. So they can, for example, in Kotak 811, you can go ahead and book some Make My Trip tickets as well, right? That service was in a banking community world is never given. And that's something which they do. And then obviously there are bank techs out there. Now I'm obviously included PhonePe as well as a bank tech or a Truecaller, because they're also getting giant and they're also doing a lot of other stuff. But they're also a classical, they can also be called neobank as well if you want to. They're basically, PhonePe is almost like a retail neobank. But these entities have access to a lot of customer data. They're also already in the journey, and they will sort of work on top of that. Coming on the left side, which is data providers. Whenever you build a bank, you need to, or a bank, you want to build a neobank or whatever, you beyond just banking APIs, you will need other APIs. So therefore, there are entities like Cursor or IND or ID5, all of them will provide KYC, risk management, AML kind of APIs. So you should work with them. And obviously, bureaus are there any place for you to work with. On the right side, we have put all the networks and India stack. So whenever you do some work, you have to work with a network. Behind, even when you work with a stack players like a Yap or somebody else, behind that you need to have a bank. Behind it, you need to have a network. So that's where you work. And obviously, you need to use India Stack for growth. Of course, GSTN data or a DigiLocker where data is stored, Aadhaar, APS, all of those services are available for you to consume. And on top of that, I put a layer of investors. This is just indicative. It's again not holistic. So these are a set of entities which are willing to invest on this segment a lot. And I'm now seeing more and more entities are entering this segment and sort of helping in the scale up. So this is largely the Indian ecosystem. We have built it as of now. Of course, it will evolve with time. And it is just to ensure that you have a view. So with this, I think I'll hand over this slide back to Shashank to take it forward. Over to you, Shashank.
Yeah. Thank you, Samir. Thank you very much. So, okay, so Samir has already given a quite overview on the open banking ecosystem that we have been talking about. So now let's go a little deeper into that. What is open banking? It's quite difficult to cover about the open banking and its entire gamut in the 20 minutes, but I'll just try to summarize some gist of it. So if you look at it, very English definition of open banking, what it is, like it's use of open APIs for the banking data to enable the third-party developers or the partners to create new financial services or the application. That's very straight definition if you go from the open banking. But let's go more deeper into that definition. So open banking is all about making that. So today customers has the banking data and the financial data lying with the banks, be it balance or be it your transactions data or his deposits, his accounts, all the kind of data lies with the bank. Open banking makes the customer to have a control of his data in his hand so that he can access these data from wherever he wants to. Okay, so that's primarily the objective. But it need to be consented based architecture. Like he should be in the control that whom he want to give an access to his transactions data or his entire account information to which third party. So that's the control, it is in his hand. So that entire layer is about the open banking. Also today, currently, if the customer want to have any kind of financial services, be it on opening of account, be it on making a payment transactions, be it to make some kind of investment through the banks, either he need to go to the branch or he is a little digital savvy and the bank has the digital platform, then he may need to go to the internet banking or the mobile banking or maybe the ATMs and the call center to reach out for any kind of. So open banking is enabling the customer to access his services or what are the financial services from wherever he would like to, from whenever he wants to. He doesn't need to only be dependent on the bank's platform to enable the financial services. The most important, the availability of the customer data on the third party or the third platform and enabling the banking services from wherever he wants to do that. There is an API structure behind it. So API is many of you may be aware of the API, but many of you may not be. So API is all about that which in technology component which enable the exchange of the data. It could be the balance inquiry, it could be the transaction data, it could be the opening of the account related data. So API enables that. So open banking is all about making use of these technologies to manage these APIs, make these APIs available, build a control around the APIs, that who can have access to the API, who can have access to the which data, how the partners can collaborate, how the partners can consume these APIs, what level that APIs they can consume. So open banking makes sure that you put that technology infrastructure in place and allow the integration with the partners. Now, the most important, when we are talking about giving an access of the customer data to the third party, now it has to be consented based on the customer approval. Still, you need to take care of the security because currently the data is inside the data center of the bank. But now once the customer is given an access, now the data has moved to the partner's platform, partner data center, partner cloud. Now, how do you make sure that the data which moves to the partners, that's also been secure? Data during the transition also, when the data moves from the bank infrastructure to the partner infrastructure, also secure. So that's also you need to make sure. And the other important component is to drive the governance. Like banks need to be adherence to the various regulations from the RBIs and other regulator body. So banks need to continue to make sure that all the regulations are being adhered to. So even when the open banking is enabling new business model, we are making sure that all this governance aspect has been taken care. So now the open banking is here for almost like 5 to 6 years, but the transition has started happening and more push towards open banking has started happening primarily when in 2018 the UK launched the UK open banking. The word open banking comes with a very common usage, and also at the same time European Union also launching payment service directives to push the banks in that regions to open their data. Also on the other side, if you look at the Singapore and the other APAC region also, there also the government has started pushing, may not be through regulation, but maybe through the directives that banks should start opening up the data. In context of India, if you look at it, it's more the market driven. It's because of the fintech evolution has started taking place in India. If you look at the last 5 years, it has been primarily growing in a pretty good pace. And also the adoption of the APIs has also taken at the front. So that's actually driven the open banking also in India. Now it still is a very early stage. Still there are not much of the use cases, but I think it's in the expansion mode already. And we're gonna see that how the expansion is gonna happen. Now let's look at that. This is one slide we try to differentiate that how open banking differs from the traditional banking. I'm not trying to look at the right or wrong part of it. I'm just trying to look at it, how this trying to differentiate. So traditional banking, if you look at it, mostly it's an inside out approach. So like you have the headquarter where the decisions are being taken, where the customer perspective are being looked at it, where the customer segmentation are decided, and then entire the products and services being designed to, and then you start reaching it out. while in the open app banking, if you look at it, it's more looked at the outside in approach. Like customer is there outside, how he want to consume the banking services. Then you try to look at it, and then you try to build that entire product and the services around it. Very classic example I'll give. Samir has spoken about that bank open. Now, banking is always a secondary to the customer. Like SME or MSME, even the corporates, I'll put that same also in the corporates. Now, SME, MSME or the corporates, the core business part is to manage the invoices for that, like collect the payment from their customers. So they need to send out these invoices for whatever services they have given to their customers. On the other side, they need to raise the purchase order and make it a payment to all the vendors who are providing the services to them. So make the invoices, make the payment and take the collections, collect the money. And then around accounting around this invoice, the receivables and payables. Now to one side, you have the account system to manage these things. Other side, you have on a bank. So now you need to go to the banking platform or need to reach out to the branch to facilitate these banking transactions. And at the end, you need to do the reconciliation. Now here the customer is in front of his accounting platforms or the ERP or the SAP or the Oracles or the Zoho or the Bank Open. Why can't he do the banking also there? So that's where the outside in approach has come. That customer is in front of his accounting platform and want to do the banking. But the entire business model has also been more the product approach, like saving accounts, the current accounts, various fixed deposits accounts has been built, the variance about that products has been built. And then product has been positioned towards an entire the service model, the fees charging model, and everything will build around this product. Well, on the open banking looks at not at the product per se, but looks at that what customer want to consume, how the banking services he want to consume. Example, I'll take like, say for example, banks have the salary accounts. Now, once they define the salary accounts, they reach out to corporates and the salary accounts are open for the employees. And salary accounts are being opened for the employees and with a certain charges, the zero MAB and all these things. Now here on the open banking, how it will look at it, that customer may have any time the need of his money where he want to consume that, that money. Now that has given genesis to a product like early salary kind of products or the payday loans kind of things where he want to consume. He doesn't want to wait till 30th of money to come to his salary account, but he has a need on the 15th of that month and he want to consume that money. So it's more of the consumption based. Another example, like you are chatting on the WhatsApp and suddenly one friend asks you that, hey, can you lend me a 5,000 rupees? I need money. Now you don't want to go to the open bank, internet banking or mobile banking and make a payment. Can you make the payment directly from that platform itself? And that's WhatsApp is trying to attempt to that. So that's probably is a classic example of the use of the open data and open banking. So product evolution has been more iterative. Like the bank side, you will have the exhaustive product list to cater to the various kind of customers. You will have the variants of the products, the same category with like classic, basic, platinum, diamond, which takes care of the majority of the population that banks may be targeting to. But open banking looked at the iterative, like you position one product to customers, start servicing him, based on his pattern, based on the user's pattern, you try to position additional services, additional product to that customers. Org structure, it will continue to evolve. Say standard, while in the open banking, it will continue to evolve. It's more in the API banking driven. So like, say, for example, recruitment. Traditionally, you will hire through the referrals or the portals. Here, you will try to hire like based on that hackathons or the hiring approach and all these things. Matrices also will go through its change. If you look at it in the last couple of years, why the open banking is being again in the push. As we looked at it, primarily we have not seen much of the innovation on the banking side of products. Open banking definitely push for the innovation because here partners work together with the banks and both the parties are trying to build out a product which may suit the customer. As we spoke about like consumption based approach and wherever the customer wants to consume the banking services, you can position that. You try to simplify lots of processes. Want to give a customer today wants an ease of the usage in consuming the banking services. He wants a better experience. He wants to use the multi-channel, multi-platforms experience. Definitely evolution of API economy. Like we are living in the world of Uber, Swiggy, Zomatos, the Amazon, and the Flipkart. which traditionally operating through the API. These are all both of the API economy, internet economy, whatever you call it. And the banking is not being aloof with that. So banking is also trying to move into that kind of the consumption approach. So that's why open banking is purely derivatives of that API economy. And the most important, banking, as we spoke about, it's just more secondary. The customer want banking to be part of his journey, part of his life cycle, wherever he's doing his actual day-to-day work, actually his business, there itself can he do the business. Now we have seen that open banking being in there, we have looked at the open banking ecosystem, lots of players, but still it's still not has taken that league that it becomes a very core part of our life. But definitely the COVID, the last 60 days and the 90 days have been a different, it has been totally different atmosphere, different world that we have come into. And we are expected that this will completely change the way we live. Our new normals will be totally different. Open banking, we as a team, after talking to various bankers, in interaction with the fintechs, we see, we have taken that experience that after COVID, post-COVID, and in fact that will start happening right away. We'll see that open banking will definitely pushing through a different transformations. Like first, most important thing, we'll see the partnership going to be key growth for both the banks and the fintechs. We both will try to explore each other customer outreach. They will try to reach out to their customer, handhold each other to find out new customer segment, target those things. Product innovation will be different. I'll speak in the next slide more on the product innovation. Customer support model, both will try to see that how the customer service can be enabled. Like say for example, today customer want to change an address. He doesn't need to be dependent only on the bank's platform. He may able to do the transition from wherever he's consuming the banking services. That's a one very simple example, but it could be entirely the support model built together with banks and the fintech put together. And the delivery of the bundle services, since we are going to be partner, fintech will be deeply integrated with banks. Banks will also try to see that how they will able to push that additional set of the services with to the customers for with banking service which is already is consuming. And definitely, it's going to be more critical for small and mid-sized bank because it gives them the edge. It doesn't have to depend on the large capital, large branch network. So definitely, it gives them the advantage, be it NBFCs also, and definitely it's a more advantage of fintech and startups so that they take advantage of the bank's platforms, bank APIs infrastructure, and continue to innovate and build a new service model around it. Definitely our habits are going to change. Our choices is under tremendous change, like retail stores and lots of atmospheric changes will also take place. Like those who were more of a mall driven shopping experience and they used to do more retail shop based experience. Now they are also moving into the e-commerce kind of the model. Now, many people will be continue to do that kind of experience. The retail will also go through its own change. Like people will try to averse of using direct cash or the credit card or the debit card, physical, anything will be physical touch will be try to avoid it. So we'll see lots of changes taking place. Financial goals, financial habits will change. Like for example, I look at it and the world, everybody seeing that how the investment of everybody has gone to an upside turn because of that entire event and the market breakdown. Anything related to the equity and all this thing has taken a big hit. People will not look at the short term and the long term now because it doesn't matter. The long term gains has also been wiped out. So they will have a different financial goals. They will like to look at the different mode of the consuming those services. So the entire the product innovation will depend around change of habits, change of the financial goals, change in the mode of the consumption of these services. So that's where the open banking will play a big role into both the party, not only from the bank's perspective, but the fintech also trying to advantage of each other expertise. Fintech bringing its expertise on the agility, the innovation, the customer experience, the technology. Banks bringing his experience on the banking products, understanding of the banking services, and trying to align themselves into new product which takes care of this changing environment. So as we say, open banking model will enable both banks and fintechs to rebuild that entire product and delivery model. So one side you will have the product and also how these services can be plugged in towards these products. So that will also be define their success, and then open banking will make that enablement to happen. Most of the banks have today that infrastructure. The fintech have that ability. Now it's more about how they exploit that strength with each other. The most important, the revenue side of it, both will try to see that how can take advantage of the revenue monetization, either through direct like cross-sell, upsell kind of things, more of the usage of opening an account, like fintech is trying to onboard more customers for the banks trying to push more services by analyzing the data from the fintechs. So fintech is also sharing the data, whatever that he is accumulating. Banks are also sharing that data. Both are working together and trying to monetize the data together. Okay, indirect monetizations, like they may have the float income or the money lying with the nodal accounts and generating interest for both. So both will look at it that now new ways to monetize around that APIs. We know that everybody is under tremendous pressure on the cost. Banks is also tremendous pressure on the cost. So fintechs are really taking a point on the cost side. Investors are pulling out the money or holding up the money. So both will gonna experience the cost pressure, and not until that COVID gets over, but it could be longer period, maybe 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years down the line. That cost pressure is going to continue to do that. They will have the limited costs. So they'll both will try to see that whatever the cost they have, how they can manage it better. How the banks can look at that key services can be enabled through that fintech platform, rather than pushing that its own NPC to deliver those services, because more pressure on the national processing center or the backend operations team of the bank, the more cost it will have. So bank will look at that, how they can optimize that cost by delivering the services through the partners platform as well. And fintech will also see that how it can optimize, be it on the customer acquisition, be it on the delivery of the services, or the entire aspect, that both will try to see that cost management better. And the open banking definitely help that banks to or the fintechs to manage their cost better and monetize, give them the various options to monetize it differently. The last things that we will try to cover, that we'll also see that how the banking performance or the fintech performance are being measured today. You have a traditional method or the cost to income ratio, or like ROA, ROE, those will remain there. I'm not saying that they will go away. They will continue, because normal mode of the business will also continue to run. But open banking will give a new dimension to build a partnership, build a new set of the business model, and start delivering the services, because that's going to happen, as we have seen that. So when this new business model is going to happen, how you're going to monitor that? So you need to define a new set of the KPIs and ratios, through which you can manage the performance of the new business model more efficiently. Like, say, for example, for the banks will try to closely monitor that how much customer has been onboarded through the partner. What is that percentage? What is the percentage of the sales that has been enabled through the partner's platform? So that's kind of the monitoring will happen. How much monetization has been made on all the APIs which have been shared with these partners. Fintech will also see that how deeper they are integrated with banks, how many services of the banks they are able to integrate and able to deliver from their platforms, how much revenues are being made on each different product. So that's where the fintech performance will also be monitored. And the investors will also look at that, how the fintechs are deeply integrated with banks, so that all the banking services can be provided from the fintech platforms. So that's why we are definitely in the tough time, tough era. Business is going through the big transformation. While on the positive side, open bankings definitely provide a good platforms for both the banks, NBFCs, and not only it's limited to the banking ecosystem. It's open data, it's open business. So it will be open for insurance or the wealth companies also, to force better business model, more evolved business model with fintechs and startups. So that's where I'll end my session, because it's very difficult to cover entire open banking in 10 to 15 minutes.
So good. Thanks, Shashank, for this. Thank you, guys, and thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's been an amazing experience. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.